Hello everyone, you're watching NDTV. Air India has cancelled multiple international Dreamliner flights today, citing operational reasons and also airspace issues. DGCA is also likely to meet with Air India and Air India Express officials soon. These are officials waking up after a deadly series of crashes that India witnessed, from the Air India disaster in Ahmedabad to repeated helicopter accidents in Kedarnath. Meanwhile, Parliamentary Standing Committee on Transport led by JDU MP Sanjay Jha will also look into deep-rooted lapses in India's aviation ecosystem. The panel will meet on the 23rd of June and it is likely to chart out a plan to summon officials from DGCA, Air India, Boeing and key helicopter operators, also stakeholders, as safety violations, fatigued pilots and weak enforcement dominate headlines today. Now, the recent plane crash has also prompted an investigation into pilot training and safety compliance by the DGCA. The big question we ask tonight: can India truly become a global aviation hub without fixing the basics, safety, staffing, and most importantly, systemic accountability? Joining us now is Captain Meenu Wadia, who's a founder president of Federation of Indian Pilots. We also have Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar, who's former senior commander Airbus and also Air India Express. Thank you, both of you, for joining me on this broadcast. Captain Wadia, to you first. There is a certain signal that India's aviation sector, despite its rapid growth that we saw in the last many years, has many things that need to be fixed. What are the top things that come to your mind that need to be done so that we are better prepared to meet demands of scale, complexity and also public trust, and also work towards regaining that sense of public confidence that seems a little shaken now?
Good. I'll get very specific to your question also. But why are you raising this question now? We've been raising it for the last 50 years with hardly anyone listening. We have very specific recommendations to make. First of all, right now, as far as this accident is concerned, yes, we can discuss this accident, but what I'm more interested in is the whole safety record of India and how it can be improved, to start with, as what you had asked. Right now, we heard that a secretary has been appointed as the head of the committee for the inquiry. This is something which is absolutely unacceptable. This is what has been going on for years. Earlier, we had a high court judge or someone else who is not a professional. We need a trained professional, an accident analysis specialist, to be heading the inquiry panel and not a secretary. It's absolutely out of the question, to start with. I hope it's better late than never. I hope the government can reconsider and reappointed the committee which has the person who's trained in accident analysis. That's one thing. Secondly, where are the lacunas which can be addressed? For India we've asked for many years to have an independent safety board. And no one has listened for many, many years. Now we have something what you call an independent safety board, but it is not independent. If it comes under the Ministry of Civil Aviation and if it comes under a secretary and the DG is answerable or talks to the secretary, it is certainly not an independent safety board.
Okay.
Yes, first of all, the safety board has to be of highly trained accident analysis specialists and totally independent. That is to start with.
Okay.
You want me to go more?
No. Let me just get in a reaction from Captain Bhatnagar also. Captain Bhatnagar, I was also studying the report of the Transport Committee, which was submitted in March this year. And the committee very clearly says that there's about 30 crore that's allotted to the DGCA, which of course is the main body, then the PCAS and AAIB, which is the Aircraft's Accidents Investigation Bureau. They together receive a far more modest allocation, is what the report says. Do we need more resources? And also in terms of vacancies, these are bodies that seem to be having between 25% to even 50% vacancies. Is there something that needs to be expedited on that front?
100%. I fully agree with what Captain Wadia said, that, first of all, there is an immediate need of a safety committee which is totally independent, away from a kind of safety board which is, not under any secretary or something of that sort. Secondly, the DGCA has got, I was told, I think 48% vacancy is still there in DGCA. Which department they have got this vacancy, whether airworthiness or any engineering department, anything. So the regulator has to be fully equipped with manpower, equipment, latest technology, and also to enforce all these, whatever the, the rules and regulations as per the ICAO, it's supposed to be done with the airline. Secondly, anytime, whenever we have any accident, the report says that we'll do this, we need to see whether this has been done or not. Until we have an independent safety organization who is not answerable to anyone, we will not be able to, do any kind of justice to any accidents. And again, I'll fully agree with Captain Wadia about that Union Home Secretary or Union Secretary has been appointed as the head of the inquiry for AI 171. It is absolutely not correct. You should have a topmost 787, somebody who's actually knows everything about the aviation. And how many members are there in that the government should come out. These are the members appointed. So it should be and ask Air India to pitch in, and they should ask whether these members are sufficient. All these things take into confidence with the companies, the airlines also. Otherwise, I don't think whether they'll come out with the correct inquiry or not.
Okay, Captain Wadia, will it help if the DGCA has a technical regulator, which also is something that we've had in the past, and also help us understand when it comes to crew training or fatigue management or aircraft handling, is there a need for a review of pilot rosters or dispatcher records? Because there's also a sense of understanding that there needs to be a review of fatigue management amongst pilots. In very simple terms, are pilots flying too tired too often? Is that something that is a concern? Because today DGCA has also, what we understand, has also asked all flying schools to conduct training compliance checks. Is there a concern on that front?
You asked me 500 questions. Will you give me 500 hours to answer those questions? Okay, let me go step by step. When I said you need specialists, I'll give you specific examples. It is not my opinion. I'll give you facts. For example, when the mid-air collision took place in Delhi, Chakri Dadri, between Saudi and Kazakhstan, we had forecasted that accident and told the government in writing that this will happen. They did not take any action. The accident happened. Immediately after the accident, we had suggested two major issues. One was a simple thing. Today, all pilots, including Captain Patnagar, will understand and appreciate what is a transponder switch. At that time, it was never necessary because the ATC never had the facilities. So we requested, and I informed the DGCA to ask all airlines to keep that transponder switch on. It took me almost 2 years to convince the DG, and eventually he came out with a very wishy-washy letter that yes, the transponder switch. Whereas at that same time, Jet Airways pilot had requested me to give them a presentation, and they had all senior examiners, check pilots, etc., and instructors. And I was giving them. I asked them, "Do you keep the transponder switch on?" They said, "No. What for? It's not necessary." I talked to them in 2 minutes. So in a few minutes, I was able to convince them because they were talking aviation language, whereas the DGCA couldn't understand what I was talking about. That is why it took him such a long time to take the necessary action.
Right.
As far, which is the second question you want me to go? You asked me 500
also about fatigue management amongst pilots, because it's very easy to blame pilots for everything. But I want to know, is there a sense of high workload and minimal rest amongst crew members, especially pilots?
I'll tell you, it's called FDTL, Flight and Duty Time Limitations. Now, these flight and duty time limitations are done after specific studies, researches, and ICAO gives recommendations, and India has been following them years back. However, even if you are following, we are breaking those rules also time and again. But that aside, today also you have FDTL, which is different for 2-engine aircraft, 4-engine aircraft, etc. And it is just not followed. And the limits that has been specified, I think there was a letter on 13th of May given by the DGCA, and the airlines have given it to all the pilots. It is a ridiculous FDTL. It is a ridiculous FDTL. It will cause accidents and fatigue to start with.
Well, why do you say that, sir?
Because I'll quote you figures. Earlier, for 2-engine aircraft, there was limitations. If I go into specifics, I'll only confuse the issue. It was 8 hours and 9 hours for 2-engine. Now it is 12 to 14 hours. Now, the only person who would understand, if you know Mr. Shivaraman, who was a director DGCA earlier, he's also an aviator. When I told him this recently, and he was also on one of the channels on an interview, he was horrified, and so was the managing director, earlier managing of Air India. So it is utterly ridiculous. You have to go by research work, not by your opinion and my opinion alone. It has a lot of relevance. This FDTL has a lot of relevance. Also, along with this, I'd like to mention that today, if any pilot points out flight safety issues to the airline, not only today, even many years back, the pilot is sacked.
Okay.
And on another channel, there was an engineer who was telling me, Captain, it's not only the pilots, even the engineer, if he brings in safety issues, he is sacked.
Okay.
Now, do you think any country can boast of aviation progress without fundamentals of aviation safety?
Absolutely.
These are fundamentals of aviation safety which are totally non-existent in this country.
Right, that's very important. Captain Bhatnagar, how do you also see reactions and action by officials, official agencies, by DGCA, post this crash that took place? Also, what happened in Uttarakhand, what is happening in Uttarakhand, those chopper crashes that have been happening, what needs to be done on that front? And also, so many Air India flights being grounded today. Do you see this as a sense of caution? Do you see this as increased understanding of caution, or do you see this as just a wake-up call?
You're muted.
Yes.
Bhatnagar, you're muted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry, I think I will take this as a wake-up call, because enough has been said for so many years about the safety, air safety. I don't know people why the regulators and people are not taking cognizance of all these things. Okay, whether it is Uttarakhand or hill flying, you need to see what exactly the training, whether the training is correct or not, whether the checks procedures, everything is correct or not. Okay, so but air safety, I would not say is in compromise, but yes, the significant challenges these days are being, there are significant challenges as far as the air safety is concerned. And I tell you very clearly what Captain Wadia is saying, that we need to have an aviator at the top of the helm of this thing. We need to have an aviator who understands, like FDTL. It's been totally, I wouldn't have, misused. Well, not misused, totally stressed by the airlines. Airlines have these days become more commercially oriented. They need business. So it's for them, it's 12 hours or, for rest. It can be anything day, night, but, the body clock also has to get adjusted to all these
Absolutely,
things.
Captain Bhatnagar, I'm completely out of time, but something that both of you mentioned is that we need people who understand the aviation language, the needs that the industry has right now at the helm. India's skies are getting busier, but also riskier. For an industry that touches millions of lives every day, safety cannot be reactive. It must be built into the system through trained regulators, alert pilots, and smarter infrastructure, something that the panelists have also been talking about. But of course, there needs to be political will to also enforce changes before the next crash writes the new headline.